of poor whites and free.
That's how white supremacy has worked. White supremacy has turned whiteness into property. It has given whiteness a currency. So yes, it is during Reconstruction, largely because free schools for the white people is in white supremacy and not in investing in the common good and programs that are going to help them financially and economically. So there's a famous quote from a formerly enslaved person who said it was white people who were freed by the Civil War, not black people, because poor white people, because they ended up getting all of these advantages that black people had fought for. And black people, of course, after Reconstruction, returned to a quasi-slavery known as the Great Nadir.
You were very specific in saying
well, I thought it was important that is also the story of our ascendancy, of the fact that so long. Very critical to me that the bulk of the, and not just the writers, are black writers. So that like this and not as well. I should add, if that the represent the interests of Black Americans. So we have foundation founded by Smith. So I just felt that centering the great thing about Black photographers and Black.
I was going to end it there, but I hold water. The reality is writers and Black essayists are, but this whole how hard it is to find 10,000 word staff.
If you're intentionally looking at all. In fact, I is doing our job. Thank you for having me.
All right, we've got our panel here. This is Michael. I'll start with you. I mean, I was asked about this, and I said my focus is, and this is a particular issue. I said, but my focus is not just going to be for a day or two. I said, the reality is we must unpack this thing over the next year. I said, because first of all, the 400th anniversary, it doesn't just happen on one day. It actually goes until the 401st. And so I think it's important for us to lay this thing out and to unpack it so many different layers, because this really does speak to who we are as a nation. Slavery is what created this nation. America had no economic system. Capitalism did not. Slavery created capitalism. It wasn't the Industrial Revolution. As if we should not deal with these things, to me, is nonsensical.
And you know, we talk about this quite a bit, Roland, is whether it's criminal justice reform, and I think the picture of that is always Black and brown people. When you get white folks at the table, then the discussion changes. And these discussions over the next year about the anniversary have to include white folks willingly to be part of the discussion. If they're not part of the discussion, there's going to be still this kind of line that's drawn. That's their problem. Slavery happened a long time ago. It doesn't really matter anymore. We're past it. Martin Luther King, you got a Black president, you know, all those things that folks say. But unless you bring white folks to the table to be part of this discussion and talk exactly about your guest just talked about how slavery just did not impact, and post-slavery didn't just impact Black folks, it also impacted white folks.
For me, Shannon, I don't see this as I need to make white people a part of the discussion. What this is no, as I said, history and historic. What we have been taught is a fraud.
Fact is fact. You know, in Maryland a couple of years back, when the statues were being taken down and folks were upset, well, that's a part of history. And why would you want to take down the statues? But see, if that's the logic, then we're discussing slavery. That too is a part of history. So why would you try to erase that? So it's got to be fair for the goose and gander. If you're trying to accept one, you got to accept the other, because history is side of facts. You're not representation.
Are folks who still are in denial. If you begin to understand where we are today, when you look at education, when you look at, there's something happening this weekend in Hampton, Virginia, where they're focused on that, where, I mean, black people were killed if we were caught reading. I mean, how basic and fundamental. I really don't think white folks today, and let me also be honest, a lot of black people and Latinos and others do not understand the depths to which America went to degrade, destroy, and demolish black people in this country.
They don't. And you're right. It's about education and the lack of education. And that was, you know, kind of the point. We had this weird relationship with slavery where we say, sure, this was bad. This was a bad thing. But all of the other actions surrounding it and how we bring people up and how we educate people and what actually happened in our history, it's so bad. How often, you know, I think like as a black woman who I think is fairly educated, I find out something new or something that I wasn't taught in school. And like how I am from Muskogee, Oklahoma, which is right outside minutes away up the, you know, the turnpike. I didn't learn about that in school. And also we still do. We have it in, you know, there's a big slave owner on the front of it. You know, we don't talk about how George Washington pulled his slaves' teeth so he could have falsies. We don't talk about, as much as we should, about how Thomas Jefferson was a monster, an absolute monster, a child rapist, a slave owner, just a monster. We still celebrate these really horrible people just because they, you know, yes, they did, you know, they are our founding fathers. They were also monsters. And it's like, oh, no, you can't disparage them. And we don't learn about things that we should in school. So it's like, I almost can't even blame the ignorant racists who are so angry at this massive piece of history that they should be happy to learn about, because our education system is set up so that they don't believe it.
And again, I just, for folks, if you have not seen this discussion on social media, it is amazing to watch all these people freak out because they are challenging the notion of the perfect and pious and pretty America and how it was constructed in such a way where it was the most brilliant form of democracy ever in human mankind, and how it was just so awesome, because they don't want to deal with the reality of what it actually was and is. And the fact that we are still today fighting things that we should have gotten at our birthright, but then again, that couldn't be the case because it was never designed for us to have a birthright and for us to be born free. It was never designed for us to have a vote. It was never designed for us in America. And so for all y'all white folks who bothered by it, ain't my problem. Suck it up, deal with it. We've been here. Black people, unlike anybody else, has done more to force America to be the nation it says it is on paper. Our goal is to make it the nation the way it should be in reality. Gotta go to a break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered, just a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, you've heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org. Why? Because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We've all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at over $340 billion. We know that marijuana legalization is sweeping across the country, state by state. We also know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all of the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the United States and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S., creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants. Folks, this is not rocket science. It's pretty simple, and it's an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Our friends at 420 Real Estate decided to do something special for Roland Martin Unfiltered family. Originally, the minimum investment level was $500, but right now you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, $200 up to $10,000. Remember, this is a $340 billion industry that is still growing. You can participate with as little as $200. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. It's marijuanastock.org. Folks, get in the game and do it now. All right, today here in D.C., Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, three-time MVP, launching a golf program at Howard University. Now, first of all, Howard University for a long time had a golf program, but it was actually dropped. Well, there was a chance encounter with a student earlier this year when Stephen was on campus, and that led to today's announcement. Roland Martin Unfiltered was there, and this is what took place.
I want to also address Mr. Curry. You know, we're at a very interesting time in our country and our nation's history. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot for us to be cynical about, a lot for us to be disappointed by, especially in terms of the rhetoric. But one of the things that I think we all must make sure that we double down on is investing in the people who invest in us. And one of the things that we have to take pause today amongst everything else that's happening is to realize that Mr. Curry represents what is great about America. If you want to talk about American greatness and you want to talk about what Americans should be doing regardless of their station in life, I think you just need to look at what Mr. Curry has been doing off the court. We're not even talking about on the court. When he brought Emmanuel to Howard, it was an emotional night. But his investment, meeting his mom, seeing his family's investment in that project was unbelievable. And then again today, there's so many other things that he could be doing today. There's so many other schools that he could be at supporting something like this today. But he chose to be here for a reason. His social activism, without political rhetoric, speaks volumes to who he is. And I hope that in all of the cynicism that we sometimes see and hear every day, we're going to take pause today to recognize that there's a lot to be happy about in this country with people like Stephen Curry around. So, Mr. Curry, I want to thank you for all that you do. The young men and young women who participate in Howard Athletics are some of the brightest people you will meet, people who are out changing the country, changing the world around us. So this investment is clearly that. This is an avenue for students who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to attend a Howard University, to use the game of golf, to participate in that. And for that, I'm also grateful. I'm also grateful that he recognizes the value of that education.
It's extremely rewarding to be here. I know, again, what the game of golf has taught me. Obviously, I play basketball full-time and have enjoyed that part of that career path. But in terms of what golf has taught me about the different places it takes you, the things it teaches you about yourself, the people that you get to play with, as you said, it's a family thing for me as well. My dad got me into the game when I was 10 years old, and a high percentage of my rounds have been with him as well. My relationship with the game Howard to invest in their this amazing. It's just exciting to bring this to fruition.
Amazing moment just to have here to see it from Howard as well. And NBA superstar, it's unbelievable. It's awesome, and I just want to thank God because without him, none of this would be possible.
In the beginning, we're going to start with 3 scholarships in total, 2 on the women's side and 1 on the men's side. But there might be in the first year, we're still working through the particulars of this. There might in the first year be 2 scholarships based on a separate situation that involves Mr. Ferguson. Right? But I can't get into any more details on that. With regard to the endowment, we're going to look, Steph has agreed to work with us in terms of raising the funds for the endowment so that this program can go on in perpetuity. That number could be, I'm not going to put a limit on what that number is, but we're looking at somewhere between 6 to 8 million. Well, I don't like to talk about anybody else's wallet, but let me just say this. He is putting up enough that we will be able to, in the first year, hire a coach and do the necessary and spend the necessary resources to create and develop a team starting in 2021. He is also putting up enough to pay the operating expenses and the scholarship expenses for that team on both the men's and to that.
Kind of playing basketball can create opportunities to give back. You don't have to
thank Steph Curry. The Funk Fan Club. Every dollar that you filtered, support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to filtered.com. Music in an upscale destination. The week-long of Los Cabos, Mexico. Autos by pairing cuisine, top shelf libation, much more. Luxe Jazz experience continues to expand, including daytime excursions and many confirmed guests. Albright, Alex Bunyala, average white bands. For more information, Jazz as Texas shocked and never thought.
Then you shouldn't be a police officer because you're critical thinking. This goes back and his coworkers who's kind of even one of those things where it's like, gotten an appropriate transport. No, a lot. We see the disparities and just was not. And it just goes down to dangerous are where a police, in their, that this should be invented to deal with this before, and they want to break protocols.
I looked into it, and I was told that, control both must be challenged, holding the reins in one hand. So, in this issue,
right,
you have a horse, and you hold the horse's reins in one hand, and you have a man handcuffed, and if it's good enough for him to walk it, come on. Either wait for a car, or do something. They had to understand that the optics of that just would not fly anywhere.
As they say, Michael, sounds too much like right.
Well, it's certainly to them. Certainly to them it did. It's just, until we see this happening to white folks, this is going to continue.
Yep.
We've talked about it always starts at the top too. As long as 45 is there, people feel they can do it with no consequence.
I was told they did that to a white person as well. So I asked, well, who might that have been? Oh, well, we don't have that.
Yes. Please, let's see that photo. Let's see that photo.
I said, really? So this is what you do regularly?
Email from an
meaning Charlotte Mecklenburg, but you have a sense of grandeur and fair city. What a joke. Why are you? Do you see African Russian, African? None of you.
Within days of each other, members of the county commission, look critics to go back to the crime. Folks, a couple of headlines here. First off, so I was at Howard University today. My niece is a student there.